I want to start by saying that nothing happened. I need you to know that before anything else, because by the time I finish telling you this story, you're gonna wonder, and I want the answer sitting with you from the beginning. Nothing happened, but something changed, and sometimes that's the part that's harder to explain. My boyfriend's name is Derek. We've been together for 2 years, which is long enough that the relationship has its own rhythm, its own routines, its own comfortable grooves that you stop noticing after a while, the way you stop noticing the sound of traffic outside if you live near a busy street long enough. Derek is funny and easy, and he knows how to order food for me without asking, and he texts back within 4 minutes almost every time. On paper, he is a good boyfriend. I had no reason to think otherwise. His best friend's name is Caleb. Caleb has been around since before me. They grew up together, played college baseball together, moved to the same city after graduation by what they both call coincidence, and what I have always privately suspected was a joint decision neither of them wanted to admit to. They are the kind of friends who communicate mostly in old references and half sentences and silences that carry full conversations. When Derek told me early on that Caleb was his best friend, I understood it, the way you understand that a person comes with their whole history attached. You don't question it, you just make room. Caleb and I had a fine relationship, friendly, easy enough at dinners and game nights and the occasional Saturday afternoon when they'd watch whatever sport was in season and I'd sit nearby doing my own thing. He was kind to me, always appropriate, never anything that made me uncomfortable. But I'd be lying if I hadn't noticed, in the way that you notice something and then immediately file it away in the part of your brain labeled "do not open," that Caleb looked at me sometimes in a way that was slightly longer than necessary. Not inappropriate, not aggressive, just attentive. Like he was paying more attention to what I said than the situation required. I filed it away. I left it there. Derek left for a work trip on a Thursday. Dallas, 4 days, something to do with a client his firm had been courting for months. He kissed me goodbye at 6 in the morning when I was still half asleep, and I told him to text me when he landed and went back to sleep. Caleb texted me that same night around 9. He said Derek had left his apartment key with him to water his plant. Derek has one succulent that he is inexplicably devoted to, and asked if I was around to grab dinner since he was already in the neighborhood. This was a normal thing. This had happened before. Derek encouraged it even, in that relaxed way he had, like the idea of his girlfriend and his best friend spending time together was straightforwardly fine, because everything was fine. Always. I said, sure. We went to a Mexican place 2 blocks from my apartment and split chips and queso and talked for 2 hours in the comfortable way that had built up over 2 years of being in each other's orbit. He asked about my job. I asked about his. He made fun of Derek in the affectionate way best friends do, telling a story about something stupid Derek had done at a work party a few weeks ago that Derek had somehow never mentioned to me. And I laughed and filed that away too, in a different drawer. A smaller one, labeled "Small Things That Don't Mean Anything." Then we walked back to my street, and he mentioned he'd taken an Uber and hadn't been planning on drinking, but had gone through, by his count, 4 beers over dinner without really tracking it, and he didn't love the idea of getting on the subway, and he lived 40 minutes away. I said he could take my couch. It was a couch I had offered to mutual friends before. It was a perfectly reasonable couch offer. I did not think about it twice. Here is where I will tell you the part that I have replayed more than I'd like to admit. We got back to my apartment, and I found blankets, and he changed into the spare t-shirt and gym shorts he apparently keeps in his jacket pocket, because as he explained, he is someone who has learned from experience to always be prepared to sleep somewhere that is not his own bed. I made fun of him for this. He said Derek had the same habit, which made me laugh. And then something shifted in his face so quickly I almost didn't catch it. Almost. I was in the kitchen getting water when my hip caught the edge of the counter turning around, and I stumbled sideways right into him because he had come in behind me to put his glass in the sink, and neither of us had announced our positions. His hand came up automatically and caught my arm above the elbow. Just a reflex, just balance, over in 2 seconds, and he stepped back immediately and said sorry. I said I was fine. He said he knew. And then neither of us said anything for a second, which was 1 second too long to be nothing. I went to bed. In the morning, I woke up to him already in the kitchen making coffee, which I should have found annoying. It's my kitchen, it's 7 a.m., I haven't brushed my teeth, but didn't. He handed me a mug before I asked for one. He'd found the right cabinet on the first try, which means he'd been in my kitchen enough times over 2 years to know where I kept things without thinking about it. I sat at the counter and we talked about nothing in particular while the city outside started its morning noise, and it felt comfortable in a way that I noticed specifically because I was trying not to notice it. Then he put his mug down and said, "Can I ask you something? And you don't have to answer." I said, "Okay." He said, "Are you happy?" I looked at him. He was looking at his mug, not at me. I said, "What kind of question is that?" He said, "I know. I'm sorry. Forget it." I said, "Caleb," and he looked up. There was something in his face that I had no category for, something that had been sitting behind his regular expression this whole time, and was now, for reasons I didn't understand yet, closer to the surface. He looked like a person who has been carrying something heavy for a long time and is trying to decide whether to put it down. He said, "Derek's been seeing someone. I found out about 2 months ago. I don't know all of it. I know it's been going on longer than that." The coffee was hot in my hands. The city kept going outside. I said, "What?" He said, "Her name is Amber. She works at his firm. I saw them at a bar in November, not doing anything, just together in a way that wasn't right. And I confronted him about it the next day, and he admitted it. He told me it was nothing, that he was going to end it. I believed him because I wanted to. I kept checking in with him over the last 2 months, and he kept saying it was handled, it was over, he was figuring things out." He stopped. Then, "I don't think he's figured anything out." I put the mug down because my hands were doing something I didn't want them to do. I said, "And you're telling me now because—" He said, "Because I should have told you 2 months ago, and I didn't. And I told myself I was protecting the friendship, but I was sitting on your couch last night, and I realized that the reason I've been sick about this for 2 months isn't the friendship. It's you. It's that you don't know, and you deserve to know." A long silence. The refrigerator hummed. I asked, "How sure are you?" He said, "Certain." I asked him how he knew it was still going on. He said Derek had texted him last week saying he'd had dinner with Amber and that he didn't know what he wanted. He showed me the thread without me asking. He held his phone out and I read it, and then I set the phone down on the counter between us. I didn't cry. I want to be clear about that. I wasn't numb either. It was something in between. The specific feeling of a thing you have been carrying without knowing you were carrying it being named out loud. Like realizing the weight on your shoulders had a shape, and the shape was something you recognized. I looked at Caleb and said, "Why do you look like this hurts you?" He said, "Because it does." Not because of Derek. I understood that in the moment, clearly and without room for confusion. Not because of the friendship. Not because of the situation. Because of me. Because somewhere in 2 years of dinners and game nights and comfortable orbit, something had grown in the space that I had never looked at directly because I had a reason not to. I didn't say any of that out loud. Neither did he. I said, "I need you to go home." He said, "I know." He picked up his jacket from the couch and stopped at the door and said, "I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. That was wrong." I said, "Yeah, it was." He nodded. He left. I sat at my kitchen counter for a long time after that, not thinking about Derek, not yet. Thinking about the person who told me the truth was the one I'd always told myself not to think about, and how that, more than anything else, was the part I didn't know what to do with.